Daily Words of God. Each time God comes to earth, He changes His name, His gender, His image, and His work. He does not repeat His work. He is a God who is always new and never old. When He came before, He was called Jesus. Can He still be called Jesus this time, when He comes again? When He came before, He was male. Can He be male again this time? His work, when He came during the age of grace, was to be nailed to the cross. When He comes again, can He still redeem mankind from sin? Can He be nailed to the cross again? Would that not be to repeat His work? Did you not know that God is always new and never old? There are those who say that God is immutable. That is correct, but it refers to the immutability of God's disposition and His substance. Changes in His name and work do not prove that His substance has altered. In other words, God will always be God, and this will never change. If you say that the work of God is unchanging, then would He be able to finish His 6,000-year management plan? You only know that God is forever unchanging, but do you know that God is always new and never old? If the work of God is unchanging, then could He have led mankind all the way to the present day? If God is immutable, then why is it that He has already done the work of 2 ages? His work never ceases to move forward, which is to say that His disposition is gradually revealed to man, and what is revealed is His inherent disposition. In the beginning, God's disposition was hidden from man. He never openly revealed His disposition to man, and man simply had no knowledge of Him. Because of this, He uses His work to gradually reveal His disposition to man, but working in this way does not mean that God's disposition changes in every age. It is not the case that God's disposition is constantly changing because His will is always changing. Rather, it is that because the ages of His work are different, God takes His inherent disposition in its entirety and, step by step, reveals it to man so that man may be able to know Him. But this is by no means proof that God originally has no particular disposition, or that His disposition has gradually changed with the passing of the ages. Such an understanding would be erroneous. God reveals to man His inherent and particular disposition, what He is, according to the passing of the ages. The work of a single age cannot express the entire disposition of God, and so the words, "God is always new and never old," refer to His work, and the words, "God is immutable," refer to what God inherently has and is. Regardless, you cannot make the work of 6,000 years hinge upon a single point, or circumscribe it with dead words. Such is the stupidity of man. God is not as simple as man imagines, and His work cannot linger in any one age. Jehovah, for example, cannot always stand for the name of God. God can also do His work under the name of Jesus. This is a sign that God's work is always progressing in a forward direction. God is always God, and He will never become Satan. Satan is always Satan, and it will never become God. God's wisdom, God's wondrousness, God's righteousness and God's majesty shall never change. His essence and what he has and is shall never change. As for his work, however, it is always progressing in a forward direction, always going deeper, for he is always new and never old. In every age, God assumes a new name. In every age, he does new work. And in every age, he allows his creations to see his new will and new disposition. If, in a new age, people fail to see the expression of God's new disposition, would they not nail him to the cross forever? And by doing so, would they not define God? If God came into the flesh only as a male, people would define him as male, as the God of men, and would never believe him to be the God of women. Men would then hold that God is of the same gender as men, that God is the head of men. But what then of women? This is unfair. Is it not preferential treatment? If this were the case, then all those whom God saved would be men like him, and not one woman would be saved. When God created mankind, he created Adam and he created Eve. He did not only create Adam, but made both male and female in his image. God is not only the God of men, he is also the God of women. God enters upon a new stage of work in the last days. He will reveal even more of his disposition, and it will not be the compassion and love of the time of Jesus. Since he has new work in hand, this new work will be accompanied by a new disposition. So, if this work were done by the Spirit, if God did not become flesh, and instead the Spirit spoke directly through thunder, so that man had no way to have contact with him, would man be able to know his disposition? If it were solely the Spirit that did the work, then man would have no way of coming to know God's disposition. People can only behold God's disposition with their own eyes when he becomes flesh, when the Word appears in the flesh, and he expresses his entire disposition through the flesh. God really and truly lives among men. He is tangible. Man can actually engage with his disposition, engage with what he has and is. Only in this way can man truly come to know him. At the same time, God has also completed the work in which God is the God of men and the God of women, and accomplished the entirety of his work in the flesh.